Hello, this is the Red Riot Robot coming at you with logging July 2026. Let's get right into it as I just finished work on the previous logging. First up, I played Gears of War Reloaded. It was on sale for pretty cheap, and it's a remaster, I think, of the first Gears of War game, even though I'm pretty sure this is like the third one of that. And I kind of wish they would do 2 and 3 at this point, because while I like Gears of War 1, I don't think it gets into its stride until like the second half of the game. The game tries to spend the first half of itself kind of explaining to the player all the concepts of cover-based shooting, because this is kind of the game that pioneered this genre, and so it's not as confident in the player's ability to do more interesting things. Whereas like the second half of the game feels great, and it feels like it's expecting you to do things, and you are. And then the second game feels like it starts at the same quality the end of the first game is at. And that's kind of my problem with this. I wish this would have come with the other 2 games. It really needed it, because now it's like, are we getting remasters of 2 and 3? I don't know. I hope we are, but I don't know. I'll say this, having played 4 and 5 a couple years ago, boy, they really forgot how to write the cast members by 4 and 5, because man, 1, I don't think the story of Gears of War 1 is like this top class thing, but man, at least you like all the characters. At least all the characters are fun to be around. I like Dom, I love Marcus, I love the Coal Train, and it's just like, man, what happened? But yeah, I mean, it's Gears of War 1, it's solid. You've probably played it already, and if you haven't, I'm sure there's a way you can find to play it. It's an interesting thing to play if you kind of want to know where third-person shooting really got its legs under it. After that, I played another Mosaic game. It's good. After that, I played The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. This was a game that I played the demo, and the demo is very good. And I think that the demo ends at the exact point where I feel like they kind of ran out of ideas, unfortunately. Because, like, at that point, it feels like all the concepts that they're kind of playing with just kind of get dropped. Despite being a game with time travel, you don't really, I mean, you do, but you don't really affect the present. And I'm trying to talk about it because I do think this is a solid game. One of the biggest issues, I would say, is that the way treasure and exploration works is boring after a while, because you realize all the caves that are there in the present are there in every timeline. And you might say, like, well, yeah, right? But they have literally almost 0 changes from each other between each iteration of itself. The most you might get is a gate or a treasure chest that's put in a different spot, and that's it. It's really weird. Also, there is an age that is hinted at throughout the course of this game that I thought I was going to go to for the finale, and you just don't. And it feels like something happened to where they couldn't do what they wanted to do. I don't think this is a bad game, but I think the way it's structured is very repetitive and unfun. Bosses were fine. I was having fun with them until I learned how to cheese them, and then I just kind of did that for the rest of the game, because sometimes they would have so much health it was not fun anymore. Next, I played The Mermaid Mask. This is a point-and-click detective game by SFB Games. If you've been on the channel for a while, you'll know they made Crow Country from 2024. These guys still know what they're doing when it comes to making games. They make really fun puzzles. They're very good at writing. This is the 3rd game in their Detective Grimoire series. I do recommend the Detective Grimoire series if you like puzzles and point-and-click games in general, because they're pretty good. The first one is just blatantly called Detective Grimoire, and the second one is called Tangle Tower, and we're at Mermaid Mask. I'm not going to go into it because each one is basically just a murder mystery, and they're pretty good. They're very well put together. After that, I got into the Gex Trilogy, released by Limited Run Games, and I got to play Gex, the original, for the very first time, and I got to replay the other two games. So I'll start with Gex. Gex is different than the other two in that it's a 2D platformer, and I thought it was pretty good. I have a couple of problems with it. In fact, the problem I have with it is the same problem I have with the other two games, but I do think that it's very interesting that you can interact with the background as Gex in this 2D environment. I don't think there's a lot of games outside of Mario that kind of has that, and it's a lot more freeform than Mario even. I do think it takes a little bit of getting used to because there's this momentum buildup when it comes to running and jumping that you just gotta kind of get used to. I will say, out of the three, Gex probably has the most annoying lines that he spouts out. And I say annoying, it might just be he spouts them out so fast that it gets annoying because he's saying them like every 1 to 2 seconds at some points, and it's just grating at a point. I got tired of it by the end. But yeah, that's kind of my overall thought on Gex. I'll come back to like my main issue, and against with all three. I'm going to combine Gex 2 Enter the Gecko and Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko because they're both 3D platformers, and honestly, as far as controls go, they're pretty interchangeable. 3 is just slightly better put together than 2. In my opinion, probably because they had another go at making a 3D game, and so it just feels better to control. 2's still pretty good for a platformer at the time, but it definitely feels like they didn't quite have their stride yet. Out of the two, I prefer 3 over 2 because 3's levels feel better put together, whereas 2's feel like blatant video game levels. And I guess I should specify that in that Gex 3 kind of goes out of its way to make the levels at least kind of feel unique and different from each other, like you're entering a different world with each level, rather than 2 where you'll have themed channels that you go into. Oh, I should mention, I'm halfway through Gex if you haven't played Gex. The entire concept of Gex is that you play as a gecko who enters TV channels that work as levels, and it's a lot of, well, at the time, modern pop culture references and stuff. 2 feels like they had a handful of themes, whereas even though there's less levels in 3, it feels like they took the time to make each individual level feel distinct. And I can actually point at things in each level that I like, whereas 2 all blends together for me. Now, my issue with the Gex series as a whole, each game suffers the same problem, which is at a certain point, the levels devolve into unfun, overly long mazes, and I hate it. I would say it's at its worst at 3, even though I like 3 more than 2. Some of the later levels in 3 are psychotic. I don't know how anyone played that or play tested it and thought it was fun. This only happens for like 2 out of what is, I think, 12 levels, but you have a similar situation with the second game where they're also long and I'm not having fun with them. And also with the first game, they're overly long again. God, the final boss fight of the first game takes, it felt like 8 minutes, and it just feels like everything's taking way too long. And at a certain point, you just get tired. I kind of got this trilogy as I had a bit of nostalgia for 2 and 3, and I kind of wanted to know how I felt about it at the end. And I should mention, I don't think these games are hard. By the end of each game, I think I maxed out the amount of lives I could get with each game. So it's not like I'm struggling with these games. They're just getting too long. Going down the Gex nostalgia trip was fun for a bit, but I think I'm finished. I don't think I'm ever going to replay the Gex games. I don't think that they've aged amazingly. There are so many other better platformers at this point. I think it's an interesting thing to revisit if you were a kid or an adult at the time when it came out, just to kind of see what the zeitgeist of pop culture was and how a platformer that wasn't the top dog felt like. But outside of that, it's not really worth it. And that will be logging July 2026. I'm glad to finally get back into the swing of things with making videos. and hopefully I'll have something up by the end of the month, but again, no promises. Thank you very much for coming by and watching. This is the Red Riot Robot, signing out.